Welcome to Show Me Yours. In this episode, we interview Melissa Scruggs, founder and CEO of Financial Talent Group. Melissa started building her business post-COVID and in a remote environment, something that many business owners have experienced over the last several years, and has some incredible learnings about what it was like to take a company that was fully remote and transition it into a hybrid workforce. Both the learnings and challenges, the mistakes that she made along the way. She really pulls back the curtain on this one, and it's a great conversation. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rihanna Werner here with Jason Sheffield.
Hey, everyone.
And we are your co-hosts of Show Me Yours. Today, we are here with my dear friend, Melissa Scruggs. She is the CEO of Financial Talent Group here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. But I believe you actually do business like national. Like
within the state.
Within the state
of Colorado.
Oh, okay, very good. Melissa and I have known each other since we were babies, like
at
professional
least.
Babies.
At least, yes.
We were so little back then. When I first started my HR career, it was probably 25 years ago or so.
Yeah.
You were one of the very first recruiters I ever worked with. And in addition to that, when my husband moved here from New Jersey, Brian, Melissa got him, not his first job, but his second job.
Second job.
The first job that he had when we were dating.
The second real job
His
in public
second.
accounting. Yes.
Yes, exactly. When he very first got his CPA.
Yeah.
So and we've done a lot of business and have grown a friendship all of these years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Long time.
Yeah.
Long time. And it's fun to watch people grow in their careers over the times. I mean, you were an HR director. I was a recruiting manager for an organization, and our paths have kind of stayed the same and parallel, but have grown and changed so much. Now we're both small business owners.
I know. Isn't that crazy how that's worked? Like our careers are very similar, but very different. And we've always kind of just stayed parallel and been able to share a lot of life and business together, which has just been such a fun adventure.
Lots of consulting and advice and personal side and business side. And it's been amazing.
And how many events have we gone to? Oh man, we've done a lot.
Lots of events.
So, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. One thing I'm learning is it takes a certain level of courage to come and join us on this couch and talk as a business owner about mistakes that we've made. But I think it's probably one of the most important things for us to connect on. Because, you and I privately have had our moments of, right? But sitting here sharing those moments of, with the rest of the world, I think it's transformative.
Yeah, it's vulnerable, but important. And I think it's to be able to share your story. This is a market that is mostly small to mid-sized business. Yeah. And a lot of people, as they're leaving the workforce, are starting their own business. And I think it's important to hear from other people on mistakes that have happened or transitions that they've taken so that you can maybe avoid some of those pitfalls. I think it's so important.
Paints a picture of reality.
And I also think it brings in this energy of everyone makes a mistake. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, the goal isn't not to make a mistake. I think sometimes it's also to realize you're not alone.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think you can start a business. I don't think you can be a business owner. I don't think you can do that without mistakes. And sometimes the mistakes are what leaves you feeling really lonely and thinking like, I'm the only one that screwed this up. So half of it is just realizing I'm not the only one.
I am not the only one. That's for sure.
It's so funny you mentioned that, Jason, because yesterday I had a small business owner give me a call. He had seen me a couple of days ago at a presentation that I had given for a whole bunch of small business owners. And he called me up. He's like, I just had to call you. You made a comment during your presentation that it's really lonely being a small business owner. And he's like, I'm feeling so lonely right now. And I didn't know where else to turn. But because you said that and you acknowledged that, he knew that he could come to me and rely on me. And I thought that just like, it says a lot. Right?
It does. And it's a lonely place. And knowing that you have colleagues to go to and approach that understand what you've been through and just have an ear is really important. It is. Sometimes it's kind of scary going, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? But having someone like Rihanna to go, I just need to vent, or, you know, I just need to have someone, you know, run my idea to make sure I'm not losing it. You know?
That's important.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've had lots of those great conversations. So,
And I always love the moments where you like run an idea by someone like you, or when I run an idea by a trusted colleague like you, and they're like, girl, you are way out of your mind. And I'm like, I thought it was a great idea. And they're like, no, terrible. Stop what you're doing now. And I'm like,
have another cocktail and let's rethink about, let's run that idea again.
yeah. Oh, then the ideas get even
Yes,
better.
they do.
Exactly.
Okay, we're going to do a quick fire question with you. And I'm going to start off. Now, Melissa, your business is a little bit newer. You've been in operation 18?
Almost 3 years.
3 years.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's a
Okay.
toddler. It's still new.
Yes,
it's just
it
learning how
is.
to
You know,
it is a
it is.
walk
baby
in and-
business.
Even though
So-
it's almost 3 years, I feel like every day is a new day.
Mhm.
There's a new challenge that comes up. I've been in this industry for about 22 years, but gosh, I think every day you learn something new.
Oh,
you know,
yeah. Absolutely.
Especially being 3 years. So, you know, I modify and change, and you can't get your feelings hurt because it's it's not for the faint of heart. But yeah. It's still new. But yes, 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
So, because you're in the newer startup realm, I'd love to ask you this. As you've been starting your business and kicking into high gear, what's the craziest thing you've done to get your business off the ground?
This is funny. I'm sure there's a lot of crazy things as I reflect back of like, wow.
We
you
all
know,
do crazy things to start our business.
And especially when you start out, it's just, you have this idea and you think that you've got your business plan and everything thought out. Things just don't always go the way you planned. But my boys laugh at me because they started my business with a $40 burner phone and a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet and OneNote to start everything I'm doing, and then making calls and letting people know I'm out there. But the boys laugh at my burner phone, which is why I just went to the grocery store, got my burner phone and set
Brian
it up.
and I laugh at your burner phone.
But that's now my main number for this. So it did start. I'm like, okay, this is getting real. So I need to now like make that legit number. But the boys would crack up at my burner phone. So that's probably the funniest thing. But it worked.
It did.
It worked.
did.
I mean, it's a low cost entry into what we do. So you have a computer and, some membership things that you need to get involved with. But gosh, I don't need to have a huge phone system. I have a phone system now. But yeah, $40 got me going.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever
right?
it takes. Yeah.
Okay. So with burner phone, segueing into the conversation, that means AKA Melissa is a badass. And if you need CIA recruiting underneath your belt, this is the gal to go to.
Yeah.
So actually, Jason, I'm going to have you ask your.
Okay. I want to know, what book do you gift most to people?
Ooh. Oh,
We just received a book from a friend.
we did.
Did?
And I started reading it. I'm trying to remember the name of it. What was the name of that book?
What I Ate in a Year.
Yeah, What I Ate in a Year.
Anyways.
There is one that I haven't gifted it in a while, but it was Who Ate My Cheese.
That's a great book.
Yeah.
I have that
Yeah.
right upstairs.
Yeah. Yeah, that used to be. I haven't given a book in a while, but it used to be one of my favorites. I
Who's
love.
that by? Do you remember?
I don't remember who
Okay.
that's by. We should look that up and say it's
yeah.
an older
I remember
book.
who that is.
But there's a couple of small leadership books out there as well. I cannot recall the names on those either. That I think, everything now is just online. So that's why I haven't given it. I more share links
Yeah.
of, things that I think are inspirational or leadership or just impactful to the day or the environment. We're in an economic environment that is just supercharged on so many different things and, opinions and politics and what. And so if I can find things that are inspiring that help or relative to people in the day, I'll send that over saying, okay, just reflect for just a minute.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for all of us to take a step back. So I'm not answering your book question.
No, you
but,
did.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay.
Who ate my cheese?
Eat my cheese or move my cheese?
Move my cheese.
Move my
That's it.
cheese.
Who moved my
Yes.
cheese?
Okay, all right.
Who ate it? Who
I
moved
ate
my-
the cheese.
Yeah.
I love cheese.
Yeah.
I will
Who
eat
moved
the cheese.
because you eventually eat the cheese. But who moved my cheese? Yeah, that's the book.
Okay. Great.
Okay, I'm going to have you pick a card, any card.
Okay.
We're going to leave the next question up to fate.
Okay. Would you rather spend a goodness. Would you rather spend a week in jail or serve 2 years of community service?
Ooh.
Yeah, I would probably do the community service. And I mean, whether I was in trouble or not, I think it's important to give back and understand what's going on in the community. And, the more you get involved in things, the more you can share your time. I mean, you don't have to have a lot of money and sponsor a lot of things, but your time is worth something. And I love doing things that give back in the community and that are meaningful to me and my family and even my business. But I think it's, being able to give my time to things. So I'd say community service.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no would you rather there.
Yeah.
Like,
I want to go to jail. Lock me up and put me away. I might have felt like that last week, though. When all these things are going, I'm like,
All your
please
problems go away.
lock me away. Take the burner phone away.
in episode 2, Heather McBroom had actually kind of a similar question, which was so funny. We were talking about how vacation or jail could probably be a little bit of a vacation.
Yes, it's a vacation for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, but not for very long term. I just to get my head on straight and move on.
Just a week.
Yeah, just a week.
Put money on my commissary, call it good.
Make sure you fill my wine glass while I'm in jail, though. Good coffee and wine.
Okay, before we go to jail together, let's go ahead and learn how to make our own jail brew.
Yeah.
So we're prepared.
Yeah. That would be the only
jail
way.
vacation.
There's a theme here.
Yes.
If you're getting that.
All right. Thank you for being such a great sport in our rapid fire. They definitely lend to some fun conversation. Let's get down to business because I'm dying to know this from especially you. It's been an interesting start to your business for you.
Yeah.
It's been a whirlwind, both really good and really exciting. And you've grown exponentially. I mean, you've just done a wonderful job in expanding the business. And I think on the surface level, like normal humans don't see the mistakes. Like they just see you're just exploding. But, show me yours. What mistakes, what trip ups have you experienced so far?
Yeah, I would say which one. There's so many, but it's like you have growing pains. You have an idea, you start a business, you put a plan together, you think everything out, and it changes daily. Especially in what we do. It's in the staffing business, it's you're dealing with people, and so it's as people's lives change and what they need and the economy, everything changes, and how you service everybody. But I think for us, it's really trying to adapt and minimize some of the issues. But the biggest issue I would say is how I started my business, and it works for some, but we started with contractors versus actual employees. And it's just tough. There's just a lot to do when contractors are doing other things outside of yours. They're not committed to you. You don't have the dedication that you would need to grow a business where someone's working with you on your business 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
That's probably been my biggest thing. And, everybody learns from it. Everybody grows from it. My business probably could have grown faster. I don't know. I mean, things are meant to be. I truly believe that. But we would be in a different place and probably grown faster if I would have had dedicated people. Now we've made a transition from contractors to employees, just because you can actually establish processes and procedures and expectations for them full time. And so we've transitioned to full-time employees, which has been amazing. It's, as we grow our databases and all of the technology that we have to make our lives a little bit easier and expand on our branding and customer service, which is so important to us. It's been fantastic. But the first year and a half, almost 2 years, we were strictly contractors that were working with me. So that would be my only change and my only pitfall for my business. There's a lot of legal things that go on with that, is, what they have access to and protecting your assets within your business. And when they're contractors, there's not a lot that you can control on that. So that's what I would say. But I think it works you have to look at your business and figure out what works, because I truly think that contractor model works well. In the right situation, with the right parameters, with the right lockdowns on your technology. I mean, there's just so many things that you can do. And that was the other thing, is that we have a CRM that we took off the shelf, that apparently doesn't track a lot of those things. It's there, but you just need to have parameters in place to protect your assets. And, I would say that as some people are working with contractors, you just have to evaluate what they're doing and what impact it has on your business and what you're doing. And like I said, it works well.
Yeah.
For our business, especially on the sales side, there's different challenges that come into play.
I'm so curious to dig into this a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because it feels like there's been a real boom in how to start businesses that's shifted within like the last 5 years, especially like post-COVID. And I'm curious, was your workforce remote? Were they kind of throughout the country? Were they local? How did you kind of go about finding those contractors?
Yeah, that's a great question. Everybody was remote,
Okay.
which again, you think about some of these businesses and being low cost center, you can work remote. You don't need to have a physical office space. You can, all of your information is cloud-based. You don't need to have a lot of technology to do it. So everybody worked remote. Everybody started in the state of Colorado. We did have some folks that moved around to other states, but we just support the state of Colorado. So again, being on the same time zone, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 was probably our biggest thing in making sure we do it. But everybody worked remote. We've recently, when going to an employee format, have space now that we rent.
Okay.
So we are in an office on a hybrid schedule, and it works well in cultivating a culture, getting everybody on the same page, ramping people up, having quality conversation, just being around each other socially. So we have just recently, and since November, rented space. So that's been good. But we started out fully remote, and it worked well. I think organizations really have to evaluate what they want out of their business. And, with this whole return to work focus, there are a lot of people that are pushing back on that don't want to be in an office. And businesses really need to evaluate how they retain employees and attract top talent, and the flexibility that they offer and what that looks like, because that's a big topic of conversation.
And that's kind of the benefit of 1099 and contract employees, is they get to have
1099 contractors are not employees.
Well, sorry,
HR geek right here.
Sorry,
Yeah.
yes, but if they're working for your company, right, like a 1099 or a contractor, they get to have that sense of independence. They get to write off because now that you're remote, I can write off my office, I can write off my internet. You get all these advantages.
They get the advantages. Yes.
Right. So they kind of, the workforce really shifted through COVID. And I think a lot of people that were very used to being like a W-2 and that shift to 1099, but then the control, quote unquote, that the organization has over that individual also shifted.
Yes.
And that began to kind of create this crunch. So it's interesting that you started in that environment, and now you're going to kind of a more in the office, traditional type of, how is your team and how's your workforce adapted to that?
So we're hybrid. So I think that people need flexibility, right? And organizations need to define and understand from each employee what that means. Does it mean that you need to leave early to go to, Bobby's soccer game at 3:00 and I'll finish my work at night? Or I'm going to work from home a couple days a week? It's different for every organization. We work from home 2 days a week. So everybody has that flexibility to do that. The biggest thing that we've come together and are in an office with a hybrid schedule is for our branding and for our culture. We need to be on the same page. Our brand, the Financial Talent Group brand, and customer service and being known for excellence is very, very important. It can be tarnished very quickly if people are on a different page. The staffing world can be pretty competitive and aggressive in different ways, and we need to make sure that we are setting ourselves apart from the competition. And the best way to do that is to have employees that are being trained on the same brand and the culture and whatnot, but to be in the office so we can, feel that energy from each other, but still have the flexibility, because, the staff I have has young children. So they do need to make sure they have time to take care of kiddos or have that life work balance. I think that's really important too, is, most employees have been pretty prevalent on what they want. And that is, I want to have a profession. but I need to have a personal life, and the two of those need to come together. So how do I make a good living, have a great career, but not sacrifice everything in my personal life? So that's the goal that we're all working towards doing, and making people feel happy and accomplished, and they're developing and they're giving back to their organization and they're successful, while allowing them to continue having that great life-work balance and doing things in their family that's important to them.
So going back to your brand, I think that's really important. I'd love to understand and kind of dive into this a little bit more. Looking back through your evolution, you've been establishing your brand all along. Why is that from the transition? Follow where I'm going, okay? From the transition of having contractors who were remote work, what were the hiccups there in establishing your brand as you evolved into hiring on employees and then creating this hybrid environment? What were the hiccups with the contractors? Because clearly there were, right? And what is that evolution, and what are you experiencing now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say with a contractor, again, you cannot dictate. They have projects that they work on, so you cannot dictate anything else. Timeframes, meetings, any of that stuff. And they were never working full time, right? And they shouldn't. Like, they're working on other things, but for me, I needed full time. One of them would work in the evenings and then work on the weekends, which was frustrating to candidates because they're getting a call saying, hey, you need to meet with me for an interview at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, when they don't want to do an interview on a Saturday morning.
Yeah,
right?
who wants to do that?
That's where things started, dividing from where we are at, and offering from our brand that we want to make sure we are taking care of candidates and offering top-notch service, which means you have to accommodate what works for them as well. And, when you're a contractor, you have other things that you're working on. And so this particular contractor, it worked well to recruit at night and on the weekends because there were other things that they were doing during the day. And it worked for that person, but it does not work for our business and where we're going. So it came to the point that we need to find something where we are working Monday through Friday, trying to find people that we bring on that we really know we have full-time dedication to who we are and what we do. And our identity is out there. Our brand identity is out there. So having full-time employees, being in a place where we can work together and understand where someone can work with me specifically. I've been doing this for a really long time and kind of training and developing and coaching on where we're going. And so that's where the hybrid schedule came in, is that we're going to do that a whole lot better and faster by being near each other for a certain amount of time.
So what I'm hearing is you're bringing in the cohesiveness of professional level services, professionalism, and communication. Right. So you guys are marching down the same path.
Right.
Therefore, creating that brand identity.
Yeah.
Within internally as well as to your customer.
That's right. Yeah. And, like I said, contractors work, you just have to really assess on how it works for your business. But contractors I think it's a great model. For where we're at as a new organization, trying to move forward and get on the same page, we weren't going in the right direction fast enough. And having everybody working fully remote, it's hard to instill what we're trying to instill in everybody and be on the same page of how we communicate with people and timing and being cognizant of. We have two clients, organizations that hire us to find them top talent, candidates that come to us to say, hey, help me find a great role. We have to be cognizant to all of those things. And especially, if you don't have the candidate, you don't have anybody to place with an organization. It starts with the candidate, and you have to treat them. I mean, they are king. And doing what's respectful for them, and making them feel top of mind that, hey, we get what you're looking for, we understand how we can add value to what you're doing, and that's timing and how we talk with you and when we talk with you, having phone calls, not just shooting texts across with people. And so I think the whole approach from where contractors are at, it can be different for everybody. So good or bad, it doesn't matter. It just wasn't working for us. So we brought people in, and it has paid off. It has been fantastic. We continue to grow. We're moving space again to a bigger office, bringing on to one more person next month, and we'll target a person a quarter for the balance of the year. So I love where we're going, but we're on the right page and putting, process or just our roadmap, right? That everybody's on the same page and doing the same thing.
That's wonderful.
Just being able to duplicate processes and coach and train and mentor. It's really been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really quick, I want to kind of jump right into something that the complexities of actually working with contractors is quite difficult to understand, tear apart, and apply. For an example, for me, I work with people all the time on this. Like, while you can determine that a contractor relationship is good for your business, it's not always legal. Right? Tearing that apart and understanding if you're even allowed to bring an individual on as a contractor is quite complex in itself.
Yeah.
You just can't pick and choose.
Yeah.
And then that relationship forward, because if you bring a bona fide, valid contractor in to work with you, while your liability is reduced, your control is reduced, which means you can potentially put your business at risk.
Correct.
But there's other compliance-based considerations too. I mean, when it comes to the contracts, like you lose control of your processes, which we just heard from you. What other experiences have you had when it comes to contractors and things you didn't think of when you thought that the contractor relationship was right?
It's going to be ideal. Again, it goes back to how you want to be known, your brand. In our business, it's so much about customer service, and you need to respond to things the same way. You need to have a sense of urgency, a way to escalate things, and just a way to approach business. And that, again, with a contractor, you can't control any of that. When you go into something, it's like, great, if we've got these people, they have these skills, they're wonderful, but when you have a customer satisfaction issue that's not being resolved because it's not important to one person, but it's important to me, but it's not their business. It's my business. Yeah. That's the thing, is there's no ownership. And again, good or bad, but you really have to have the professionalism and folks that understand that, hey, I see this. I appreciate where you're at and what my role is at. Let's make sure we're being mindful of what their end goal is. And that's where we started to divide on some different things. But, to have control, you need to have employees because you can't enforce that to a contractor. And I think it's a great model in certain things, but as an organization, I would tell someone, really stop and evaluate what you want and where you're going, the use of them, understanding the legalities behind contractors as well,
and
so
also
that you're
having
approaching
a
it right.
solid contractor agreement that's written by an attorney, everybody. Written by an attorney. Don't go to Google for that agreement because it can bite you in the toes, the knees, and the rear end. But you want to have a rock solid written agreement and a number of other
Agreed.
initiatives.
But so that was the biggest thing. I would say that was if I were to redo it again, it was cost effective. You think about it as being simple, but at the end of the day, to grow a business and really make sure that you want to sustain where you're at and move forward and be consistent in the service that you offer, you have to have actual employees.
What challenges did you experience in transitioning your workforce from contractor to hybrid? And in that, how many of your contractors also made the transition with you to now moving into working as employees?
Oh boy. Good question.
Good sound effects, Melissa.
Now we're getting into good stuff.
Plot thickens. I feel like we all need a beer right now and just chug it. Like, here we go.
I think the biggest transition is just getting your arms around your business and what you have. We implemented a CRM to, have a database to track all of our communications with candidates and clients. Having a contractor consistently put information in that was one of our pitfalls. It just didn't happen. So that was the thing, is you just don't know who you're working with, because some of them put information in, some of them put half the information in. We're in an industry where you need to have a lot of documentation from a legal perspective. And that wasn't happening. A lot of people are in emails and texts and phones. That's not necessarily documented anywhere. So that was the hardest transition, was just to say, okay, we need to get our arms around this, but not knowing what was there, because one kept everything in her email or on her phone. Another one kept a lot in email and maybe more inconsistent. But overall, it was just trying to get my arms around the business, especially with the staff that we hired. Like saying, okay, we need to reach out to people. We need to let them know we're in a new plan, new transition. So that was the hardest thing. I think the other piece is the ramifications of a contractor and ending those relationships, is everybody thinks that they're a business owner and they have the rights to your assets. That's the toughest part.
Yeah.
And again, back to the contracts, we have good contracts in place, but for some reason, people feel like they don't apply to them, even though you have a contract.
Yeah.
But that's probably been the biggest thing, is that people feel like they can go out and, while they've worked for you, they've been, quietly creating their own business. And now they're all going off and doing this business and calling on my business. It's been tough. So again, it's going back, locking down assets, making sure you have really clear things in place. And I think we did.
But
it's
the business, I think this speaks to such the challenge that when you're starting something, you're building the parachute as you're falling. The initial system that you create is not the system 6 months from now.
Correct.
So it's evolving, but it's evolving in a way that you don't have control over.
Correct.
Because that individual is building their part of the parachute.
Correct.
Because they're solving the problems, trying to make business happen. So all of a sudden, you have this patchwork parachute.
You're absolutely right.
They take their part because they were doing it out of your purview, out of your sight.
That's right.
So how much of that workforce transitioned into hybrid? Did any of them come over with you?
So the contractors that I had, we ended those contractor agreements.
Okay.
So we've hired employees. And so those employees are new to us so we ended the contractor status and went with employees. So that's completely different. So 2 contractors are doing their own thing. And then we have employees that are now working for our organization.
And I guess I'm curious, did any of those contractors become employees?
Yeah, no, they did not.
So you had a staff turnover.
Yeah, 100%.
At what point of the 3 years? When did your staff turn over?
This last November.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, it was a strategic thing. And again, in trying to figure out where we're going and, trying to figure out, it's like, gosh, at some point you just feel like you're in quicksand and you should be moving faster than what you are. And you keep getting pulled back. You take 10 steps forward and 20 steps back because someone didn't document something. And now you've got to go fight a customer service issue and deal with an upset customer, an upset candidate on things that we probably could have mitigated if we would have handled a little bit different. This is a very high touch industry, phone calls.
Yeah.
And I think so many people are accustomed to, I'll send an email. I'll just send them a text. It's done. Just because you send a text or an email doesn't mean you resolve the issue, right? If anything, sometimes you're adding salt onto the wound. You need to actually get people on the phone and understand what's going on to know what we're dealing with and what we need to fix.
Yeah.
And people need to feel like they're important. And, that's a whole thing. Again, it's a philosophy on how you do things. And that's when we're starting to expand things out. And we now have a cloud-based phone system, which is fantastic.
No more burner phones.
No more burner phones. That's the other issue, is everybody worked from their cell phone. So people are putting these contacts in their cell phone. So they still have all this contact information. But again, it's just trying to work through things. And I think that sometimes to save cost, because all these things I did was to save cost, I should have slowed down a minute and just figured out, okay, these things need to come. When do I do those before I execute? Yeah. Because I could have saved myself a whole lot of pain and agony and money.
Well, I think that's the balance you got to figure out. Just a moment ago, you said, you feel like you're in quicksand, but then we've got the opposite, tugging at us like, no, you've got to slow down to go fast.
It's right. Slow down to go fast.
And it's just this internal tug of war of, okay, I feel like I'm drowning right now. If I slow down, I'm going to drown even further, but it's going to help me go faster.
Right.
And then it becomes a whole cluster in the mind psyche. And what do I do?
Yeah. You just have some late nights. I grab a bottle of wine and I have a couple of late nights. And really, it's just because you're still very involved in your business, right? In a small level, you are very much driving the business. I call it the strategic tactical approach, is that you're in the business driving it, but you're also moving it forward. And, during the day, it's important that you're driving it forward. And then the evening is when you're going back and trying to fix some of the pitfalls that you found, or that we know we need to go forward, and creating those repeatable processes and documentations and systems that will set us up for success so that people can move faster. Right. And it's, I always tell my staff, it's like, I don't want you to be able to slow down and overanalyze things. This is what we're doing. This is how we're going to go after it. These are the trainings that we're going to do along the way. Be confident and empower yourself, right? But I think it's, put yourself on the other side. How would you want someone to treat you? And they need to be transparent, confident, professional, confidential. And I think that makes us better at what we do and sets us apart. So all of those reasons have brought us full circle to where we are today. But I think people, again, just need to assess where you're at. There is some money involved. What are the risks? And I think if you go in knowing the risks, and I clearly went in knowing the risk, I didn't think that I would end up where I am today. But it's okay. Like, it's a learning lesson. I wouldn't change anything. I've made some great relationships with those contractors, and they're off doing their thing, and it's fantastic. But our business is where it needs to go. And I think that's the important thing with a small business. I think we started with this, is it evolves almost every day. Something new comes up, and you have to be able to pivot to address it and not get stuck on yourself going, oh my gosh. It's like, okay, what do we do? We've got a situation. We've got an opportunity. How do we address it? Instead of looking at it as a problem, here we go, we have another problem, and then nothing gets done, and you're so frustrated that you don't move forward.
So I want to ask this piece, and then we can get into maybe some of your advice and
Sure.
learnings. But I find so often staff turnover is one of the biggest disruptors to an organization. And it's one of the things that most business owners are fearful of because firing and letting go is so challenging. And so kind of walk us through that process of going and having the courage to go through a staff turnover, knowing that you had to kind of shrink down to then get big.
So your question, and this is kind of our business as well, is there are lots of small business have lean staff. And if your staff is your business, and if you don't have butts and seats, it's hard to function. And I think sometimes organizations feel like they have to have people in the seats, even though there's a lot of things going wrong. They feel held hostage. They don't address issues as they should, and they keep them in the seat, which makes the situation even worse.
So true.
So I'm going to put my HR hat on like Rana would. So I think that as organizations, you have to pay attention to your employees, because it could make or break a business, honestly. And so if having clear processes and procedures, constant feedback, good feedback, opportunities for coaching for employees so that they know what they need to do a better job, it helps your business. But documenting things and making sure you have those conversations. And if you do all that stuff and the person's not in the right seat on the bus and shouldn't even be on your bus, then have that conversation too, right? I think it's important to follow all those things. But at some point, if what you're doing is just not working, it is the scariest thing. Because now it's almost like I'm starting over, and communicating that, because now to the community, it's like, okay, we've got all new recruiters, right? You get me, and then you get this other person and this other person. But it's how you communicate that, but not being afraid, because I think it puts you in a worse situation if you are afraid to pull the trigger, or you let your staff kind of drive how you deal with things. There's always a solution. I talk to a lot of organizations like, oh my gosh, I think Susie's going to quit, and she's the one doing my payroll, and I can't let her quit, but she's not doing a good job, and she continues to make mistakes. Well, coach her and figure it out. And if you have to make a decision, but make sure people are cross-trained into what that person's doing so that you don't feel held hostage. And that's hard for a small business, especially when you have a 3-person or 4-person team. Like, you can only cross-train so much. Yeah. But I think that if you are risk averse and want to move things forward, you just have to pull the trigger. It puts a lot of time on I've had some really late nights and no weekends, right, doing it, but it's because it's for the greater good, and you ramp people up. Thus the reason we're in person, or hybrid, I should say, because it helps us get on the same page faster, talk through some strategy that we have. Our initiatives change daily, so that we're doing the right thing. But it's the scariest thing. And I think the biggest thing for me was the volume and trying to get to people, but the perception of someone saying, wow, they have 100% turnover in their staff. What's going on over there?
Exactly.
And it is what it is. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure we have a great service that stands out, and it will all work out. It just works out. And you can't be afraid. But I tell you, it's scary. And there are a lot of business owners that do it. They just do. And, you just have to figure out where you're at and make sure you have the right resources, but have a plan. You don't just overnight just say, okay, I'm done. That could be a detriment as well.
I think a lot of small business owners need to realize if you keep the wrong person in the seat,
It's expensive.
It's expensive and it's long term. And that long term is your choice.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you let go of that wrong person in the seat and you hire the right person for the seat, then it's just temporary.
Yeah.
But you get the option and opportunity to choose. And even in your situation, you had the contractors, you decided to make this organizational switch. You plan, you figure it out ahead of time. You come up with a plan, and you can even do that with performance issues and that wrong person in the wrong seat. You can say, okay, we've got an issue. I see a potential something coming down the pipeline here. Here's my backup plan just in case.
Yeah.
And you should always have a backup plan. But I think a lot of people forget about that.
Well, we're so busy being in our business and being in the moment that the planning doesn't happen. And we assume that, okay, we got everybody in the seat, everything's going to be good, when it's not good. If you're not in touch with your staff and you don't know what's going on, that could be even worse. Yeah. So I think, again, it's as a small business owner, you're in a strategic and a tactical role, and you have to be mindful for both. Just because most people start a small business because they do really well in their profession, but you have to be able to set it up, execute, get help around you, and elevate up into your business. And that's two very different roles. I would say that's probably been my biggest challenge is coming up and out of the business and being in that strategic role, but it takes trust with your staff and empowering and letting go. And, like, oh my gosh, if I don't have control of this, someone's going to make a mistake. Mistakes happen, right? But help people understanding and have some good processes and procedures in place so that they can avoid some of those pitfalls. Will things happen? Yes. It's how you recover from that. That will give your clients confidence in what you do.
So true. So looking back through all of these experiences, what advice would you give a business owner? It's interesting because you say you wouldn't change it, but what advice would you give to a business owner kind of looking at a similar situation as you with contractors and making this evolution into becoming an actual employer?
Business? Yeah. I think the biggest thing is to surround yourself with experts. So you need legal, you need accounting, you need HR, insurance, all these people that are experts in what they do that can truly guide you and help be that sounding board. That's really important because they will help you put the right things in place or help you think about things. And yes, there's money attached to some of these things, but I think it's getting a really good network around you that helps keep you on top and relevant. Because there's marketing things to consider. I had a marketing guy that he's fabulous that works with me, and he said, you know what, we need to stop what we're doing right here. And before we do all this stuff with your website, we need to stop and do some analysis. So he ran all these things and all these tag words and keywords and competitors that are within the state and said, okay, this is what we need to do on your website now. Nice. But that was not my approach. Like, I think I'm a marketing person, but his approach is like, okay, so you've got me digitally handled as well. It's things like that. It's just knowing who to go to. And sometimes we don't know who all those people are. So if you know an HR person or you know a legal person or a finance person, they'll know all the people that you need. Yep. So surround yourself with professionals that you respect, that will keep you honest, but that you can also reach out to and help you move your business forward. I think that's probably the most important thing. And I've been in this market for a really long time, so I had that network. I probably didn't engage that network at the level I should have at the beginning. I should have. Because some of the pitfalls that I'm having right now could have probably been negated back in the day when I started.
Yeah.
I think that's true for all of us entrepreneurs, though. We're just so excited to go and get our things started.
Yes.
Right? You don't think about setting up the structure for anything. And when you do think about it, you think dollars and you're like, well, I'm kind of bootstrapping right now.
Yeah.
It's tight.
Yeah.
So
I don't have the budget. I need to eat as well. And I think, just stopping for a second, it's this slow down to speed up. Is we do a great job and we know our profession, but we've got to be able to set it up correctly and move forward. in the right way and know what our stepping stones are, or some of the milestones, trigger points in your career to what, do we add these things, or we have this much more money to work with, or, like you guys and your organization has been fantastic and you went after grant dollars, which has helped your organization put some amazing things in place. And so I think it's being aware of what's going on. And there's a lot of financial help out there for small businesses that can help give you some of the financial resources to maybe move faster, or put some of those different resources in place that you might not have if you're just trying to fund this on your own, which I think a lot of us do.
Absolutely. Yeah, you bring up grant dollars. There's some great options. For an example, the Comcast Rise grant paid for this whole entire podcast setup that you're sitting in now. And they're giving us a commercial. We get a commercial. This podcast would not be happening without the funding of a grant. And there's so many more opportunities out there.
There's more coming.
Yeah,
more where
there
that's coming
are.
from.
So I'm curious, in this, your entrepreneurial journey, what do you feel like is the worst advice you heard? Or what is the thread of...
Do you really want me to go there?
What's the advice
Don't
that
say
you
names.
think you hear out there?
I'm not going to say names, but I have
names.
a very specific situation.
What's the bad advice?
It's a huge pitfall. Financial advice. Financial advice. There is a lot that you have to look at from a small business that you can have advantages or not. And I now use the CPA firm, right? The partner to BRW Tax. We transitioned midpoint last year, probably the best move we've ever done. Prior to that, I was working with a cost effective. This is all money driven, like some of the things you think you've got the right things. I made a choice just for financial decisions, and it put me behind financially a couple of years because it was not, there are strategic things you really need to look at to say, okay, if we position ourselves here and take advantage of these things, your business will continue to excel and grow, but financially you're putting your resources in the right places. I did not have that. I do now. And I feel fantastic about BRW Tax. I think they've done an amazing job they do my accounting every month, which before I was doing on my own. So not only am I running my business, I'm doing my own bookkeeping, which is so frustrating. You can do it, but it's like, oh dear God, you're doing that. But I think it's just really having someone that you trust to say, this is the structure. We get where you're at today. This is the structure we're striving for. These are some of the financial milestones you need to look out for. And this is the time and when it needs to happen, right? It's super simple to have something laid out like that. I did not have that for the first couple of years. It's either here nor there. Again, it was financially driven on that decision. So I own that. But I would say that's a really important part of this because grant dollars are at play for what you're doing. The way you run your business, what you put in your business, and again, you have to be strategic, but you want to be smart about those things too. So we are in a much better place now. A lot has happened, right? And we're almost on our 3-year anniversary. And I feel like since October, a lot of good things have happened and a lot of scary things, and having 100% turnover on my staff, like, wow.
Yeah.
But we've made some financial transitions. We've brought on staff. We have office space now. We have a cloud-based phone system where people can reach us and everything is tracked. And now we can forward phone calls to another person if someone's on vacation. Whereas before it's like, hey, it's just way better. We're smarter than we were.
Sounds like you're putting on your big girl panties.
Oh my gosh, boy, have I ever. But it's important because I'm still in the business, but tough decisions have to happen, but we've learned a lot, and it's been a lot of good things in the last, since October. And we are set up for success in 2025. I'm so excited for 2025. Yeah.
You are.
I feel really good about where we're going.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end this on, with the exception of one thing.
Yes.
I want you to tell our audience, how in the world can they do business with you?
Oh, what a fantastic question. If you are ever looking for top talent, an organization that wants to work with for professional staffing, whether it's consulting to make sure you have the right people, how to hire, when to hire, what to look for, that's us. Whether you're an individual trying to confidentially, quietly find something else, or just, needing someone to hold your hand through the interview process or to find that next job, that's us as well. So we help businesses and individuals pair up and find work. We mostly focus on the financial and accounting space at all levels, from an accounting clerk to a CFO. We do C-suite. We do retained and retained search as well as contingent search. So retained search is where you are paying a fee up front and you're committing to one agency like ours, and they kind of hold your hand through the whole process. A contingent search is where an organization would engage an agency like ours and not pay a fee until they produce top talent that you hire. Our service does not cost a candidate anything. And I think that's the other thing for a candidate, is to be aware of that, because there are some organizations that will ask a candidate to pay a fee, and that's not industry norm. So we are set for, customer service. We want to make sure that when people work with us, they feel like they've had an excellent experience. We want to be the best and the best, and it's tough when you're working with people, but with our experience and myself being in this industry for 22 years, we've got a couple others that have been doing this 4 years each. So we bring a lot of tenure to the table, and we plan to continue to grow with that. But trying to work with candidates and clients to make sure they have an amazing experience and end up with top talent that lasts a long time.
How can our viewers and listeners get in touch with you?
Great question. So you can visit our website. We are at financialtalentgroup.com. So all of our job postings are on there. Contact information is on there as well. You can reach us directly on our office line, 719-217-4062. And if someone wants to reach out to me directly, email is also listed on our website for all of our recruiters, inclgetting myself. So
that's wonderful. Yes. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us
today.
Thank
you for having me. This has been fun.
Thanks for pulling back the curtain and getting honest
and
and
boy, we pulled
and
back the curtain, yes.
You showed us yours. Hey, everybody, thank you for joining us for another wonderful episode of Show Me Yours. Be sure to share the news with your friends. We're here. We're live. We've launched. You can find us at showmeyourspodcast.com. That'll give you a link to all of your favorite streaming options. Be sure to subscribe, like, share, follow, do all the things you're supposed to do that all those other video podcasters and podcasters want you to do. We're right there with them, but we're slightly cooler, probably because, we got Jason.
More fun.
It's the man bun.
More fun. Yeah.
Thanks again, and have a wonderful day. And we'll see you on the next episode of Show Me Yours.